Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillahi wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi allazina istafa amma ba'd. Fa'auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ma yaf'alu Allahu bi azabikum in shakartum wa amantum wa kana Allahu shakiran alima. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. ربي يسر ولا تؤسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين. ربي زدني علما يا فتاح يا فتاح يا فتاح. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been extremely kind to us, extremely generous to us, that He allows us to continue to survive and live in the times which are leading up to the month of Ramadan. Every single day that we are coming to close to the month of Ramadan is a sign of hope for us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has planned something good for us. Because if we get to live through this Ramadan, then inshallah Allah will have given us one more opportunity to set our record right, one more opportunity to seek His forgiveness, one more opportunity to get close to Him, one more opportunity to become among those who He has loved. Ramadan is indeed a month like no other. Ramadan is a month which is a gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to his very feeble, very weak, very dependent servants. And it is an unfortunate thing that if we are not mentally aware of what we are about to get, and it is even more unfortunate that if we get to live through it, we don't make any use of it. Just half an hour ago or so, received the news that, I don't know if you guys are cricket fan or not, but if you are, you all must be knowing Shane Warne. Shane Warne passed away. And Shane Warne was a very legendary sportsman. And being a sportsman, you expect that somebody who keeps physically very fit, somebody who has spent a very healthy lifestyle, somebody who has taken care of himself, he would have a longer lifespan. But at the age of 52, all of a sudden, without any sickness, without any disease, without any other rhyme or reason, just like that, he passed away. And that just goes to that, news like these are just a reminder that death can come to any one of us at any time. That does not announce that I'm about to come, be ready for it. We have nobody, not a single person can give this assurance that I'm going to live through this Ramadan. We don't know. Only Allah knows if we are, if we aren't. But what we do know, based on the assurance given to us by Rasulullah is that the one who makes an intention to do something and he starts following up on his intention, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so Kareem, He's so Rahim, that even if that person passes away without getting to fulfill that thing that he started or he made the intention for, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise him as though he has completed it. So for us, it is very important that we make this intention that we will be, inshallah, preparing for the month of Ramadan. We make this intention that we want to get the most out of the month of Ramadan. We make this intention that this Ramadan would be the best Ramadan of my life. We make this intention that we are going to increase in our love for Allah, in our love for Rasulullah, in our love for Quran, in our love for doing good things, and in our love for anything that pleases Allah. This is the month that we are going to turn our hearts. This is the month that we are going to make our hearts firm in the obedience of Allah subhanahu. That's what we need to become focused on, and that's what we are going to do. And if we make our intentions like this, and if we start following on this, then we can have this hope from Allah subhanahu. Even if we get raised back to Him before getting to see a single day of Ramadan, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not only give us the full benefits of Ramadan, but also give us the benefits or the rewards of preparing for Ramadan. What is Ramadan? I think I've already explained at length the great benefits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned for this beautiful month. But there are a few others. And and it's very good to remind ourselves of what is that we are actually aiming for. What is our goal? What is it that we are trying to achieve? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Ramadan, every day of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives 10 or 1 million. 10 lakhs is 1 million. 1 million such individuals are forgiven from the hellfire for whom it had been stamped that they are going to Jahannam because of what they had been doing, because of the sort of actions that they had, the sort of mindless, heedless lives that they were leading. It had become certain that they would end up going into Jahannam, but Allah gave them an opportunity to come into Ramadan. They entered into Ramadan, sought Allah's forgiveness, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He would forgive every day 1 million such people for whom it had been written that they would be going into Jahannam. And not only this, on the last day of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that as many people who had been forgiven from the first of Ramadan till the last day of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive as many people on just the last night of Ramadan. So that would be the extent of forgiveness on the last night of Ramadan. So this month is a month of forgiveness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking for excuses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking for excuses to free people. He wants to free people. He wants to free people. He wants to get people to become free. He wants people to come to Him so that He can make them His own. He can make them His own. This ayat al-Mubarakah that we recited at the beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَا يَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِكُمْ. What would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gain by punishing you? What would be the gain that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have by giving us any punishment? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there is no need for Allah to punish us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have no need to punish us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is much bigger, He's ghani. He's not dependent on us. There is no need for Allah to punish. مَا يَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِكُمْ. The only thing that is required from our part is in shakartum wa amantum, that we become thankful and that we believe. These are the only two requirements that He has from us, that we become thankful and that we become when we believe. What does it mean that we become thankful? It means that we acknowledge the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down upon us. We acknowledge that Allah has given us this blessed month, and by acknowledging that we then, an acknowledgement, or in other words, if I am to say that, acknowledgement means that we prepare ourselves for that month. We prepare ourselves for that. All these online people who are sitting with their cameras closed, if you can switch on your cameras as I requested earlier, that would be much better. It would make me feel that I'm speaking to some human beings. There's nobody in person today. So if you can switch on your cameras, that would be better, please. Right? So then, if all that I have said to you about in the Hadeeth about what are the benefits for Ramadan, let me tell you one more Hadeeth. And this is a gem of an Hadeeth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that there are 5 things. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that there are 5 things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to this ummah that had not been given to anyone before. 5 things that have been given to this ummah that have not been given to anyone before. What are those 5 things? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, Rasulullah says that the first thing that has been given to this ummah is that the person who fasts, and by virtue of fasting towards the time of iftar, there's a stench that is coming from his mouth. If you haven't eaten the whole day, if you haven't had water, if you haven't had the opportunity to rinse your mouth, it leads to a sort of a stench in your mouth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that to Allah, that stench coming from the mouth of the person who is fasting is more sweeter than the smell of the misk of Jannah. From the perfume of Jannah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prefers the smell that comes from the person who is fasting. from the mouth of the person who's fasting. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the second blessing that the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gets by virtue of fasting, by virtue of being in the month of Ramadan, is that the fish deep in the water of rivers and the seas, they make dua for the person who is fasting. The fish in the water make dua for the person who is fasting. Why would the fish be making dua for us? Because we are fasting. Because we are eating less and that leaves them resources to eat? No, it has nothing to do with that. The fish in the water make dua for us because the ones who are fasting are drawing the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is coming down on those who are fasting. And the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like rain. And when the rain comes down, it just does not come out on one location. It makes everything wet in that area. So when the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes down on the person who is fasting, all the other makhluk, they also get to benefit. They also get to have the pleasure of the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fish in the water are also making dua for the one who is fasting. Number 3 thing that is unique to this ummah, a blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given to the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam by virtue of Ramadan, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in Ramadan, every day Jannat is decorated and is waiting for the people to come into it. Jannat is decorated every day, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it's soon that the people who had been taking on hardship because of my command would enter into you. Think about it like this, that if you have some very dear guest of yours coming over to your house, some very special guest coming over to your house, you would think every day that what my house should look like. You would think about where that person would stay, which room should I give to him, what should do I need to change the mattress of that room, do I need to put in anything else, what can I do to make it more comfortable. You would be redecorating, resetting the room, the house, just in the honor of the guest that is about to come. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that har roz Jannat ko dobara se arasta kiya jata hai. The Jannat is decorated every day, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that soon it is that the people who had been taking on the hardship because of me, because of the command that I had given, would enter into you. A great reward from that perspective. The 4th thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He chains all the shayateen. He chains all the shayateen, that no shaitan can come and distract anyone. The nafs is automatically getting curbed because of the things that we are doing. Shayateen also get chained. And the 5th thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that in Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives. In the night of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives the ones who fast. So Sahaba Ikram radiyallahu ta'ala ajmain, he said that this night in which the people are forgiven is this Shab-e-Qadr, that they are forgiven. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that no, it is a custom that the one who has done when the laborer has done some work, even before his sweats get dried, he should be given his due. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives. Just as a laborer does some labor and sweats, and his due should be given before his sweats become dry, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the blessing of forgiveness to the one who has fasted, who has done the hardship of fasting. So these 5 blessings are there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making excuses to forgive us, So the reason I've spent this first 15 minutes on just highlighting the blessings of Ramadan is just to remind us that what is at stake. What we are preparing for is no minor thing. It is a thing which has huge benefits. Every day, every night, every hour, every minute, every second of this month of Ramadan is going to be very, very precious. We need to be spiritually, physically, mentally in that right frame of mindset to know that we can get the most from this month. If we are not mentally ready, if we are not mentally in the right, if you're not spiritually ready, we will not benefit. And please also understand one more thing, that whatever we have spoken about till now has all been to come from the state of negative up to the state of neutral. We have been preparing for this month of Ramadan, but what we have been doing and what we have done all throughout the Rajab is to get the bowl of our hearts into the direction so that when the rain of mercies, Allah's mercy comes, it should be ready to receive it. And what we have done so far is just to make sure that we have plugged the holes so that when the rain comes down, when the noor comes down, it doesn't get leaked out. That's all we have done so far. And if we have missed out on those lectures, if you haven't paid attention to those lectures, then please listen to the first 3 lectures one more time. I've tried to share with you small notes as well, just as a summary, so that you have the takeaway points. So keep those takeaway points as well with you and make sure that you follow up on them. I hope by now we have put in enough effort to get off the internet. We have started protecting our ears, eyes, tongues, what we eat, what we think. We have started watching over that. And then the 4 things which are a disqualifier, we have already started working on them to ensure that we are not leaving any room for us to get disqualified despite all our efforts to gain the most. And those 4 disqualifiers were: number 1, being disobedient to your parents. Of course, number 1 was being alcoholic, being addicted to something. So we need to check our addictions. Number 2, that we are disobedient to our parents. If we displease our parents, if our parents are not happy with us, then no matter how much exercise, no matter how much effort we put into Ramadan, it's all going to go to failure. Number 3, that we clean our hearts. We clean our hearts. We do not keep any grudge. We do not keep any ill feelings. We do not leave any room for anyone to we do not have any such strong sentiments in our hearts for anyone that we say that, I do not want to, because of that person, we get deprived of all these blessings. And number 4 is that we ensure that we do not have anyone whom we have a blood relationship with that we are not on talking terms with. We need to have we need to restore our blood ties. We need to restore our blood ties. That is very, very important. So, where are we after the first 20 minutes? We are at a point where we have recapped the importance of the blessings of Ramadan, and we have recapped what we need to do to make sure that we are no longer in the negative zone. Today, inshallah, I'll talk to you about something, because the month of Rajab has ended and we are entering into Shaban. Most likely today was the first of Shaban. Was it announced in UAE that it was Shaban? Does anybody know? I haven't seen that announcement, but most likely it was. And if it was, then in Pakistan, India, and the rest of where it might be from tomorrow onwards. But nonetheless, if it wasn't today, it would be tomorrow for sure, would be first of Shaban. And that would basically mean that Shaban has already started. And what is it that Rasulullah ﷺ said to us? He said to us that for the month of Shaban is the month to grow the plant. The month of sowing the seed was Ramadan. We have already done that. Now is the time to nurture our plant. Now is the time to look after our plant. Now is the time to look after that little plant that has come out of its bud, the little bud that is starting to grow. If we have taken care of our eyes, if we have started to take care of our ears, if we have started to take care of our tongue, our thoughts, what we eat, then I'm 100% sure that there is this spark of love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that would have come into our hearts. There would be this hunger to know more, that what is it that we can now do to come close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now we need to take care of that little spark that has gotten lit up in our hearts. How do we do that? Since we are taking the analogy of taking care of a plant and how it should be looked after. There's a small couplet in Urdu that came into my mind, and it's not actually in Urdu, but it's very pertinent to this. It says that Mali da kam pani dena bhar bhar mashka pave. It's in Punjabi, I think, or Saraiki. Mali da kam pani dena bhar bhar mashka pave, Malik da kam phal phul lana lave ya na lave. What it means is that the duty of a gardener is to give water, and he gives water one after the other. He'll keep on filling up his tub and he'll keep on pouring water because that's what his duty is. It is up to the Malik, it is up to the owner that whether he gets it to give any fruits or not, that's up to him. That nobody else can come and say that this is how it should be. The gardener's job is to give the water, is to water the plants, and he does that bag full of water. It is up to the Lord to allow the fruits and flowers to grow. Whether he does that or he doesn't, nobody can question it. Our job is to make sure that we are taking care of the spark that is now lightened up in our hearts. Our job is to take care of this bud of love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has started to grow in our hearts, and it is up to Allah to accept it from us and to make it work. So what is it that we can do that really will help us a lot? This time around when I went to see my Hazrat, he gave me my Hazrat is alhamdulillah very generous and is very caring. So he knew that nothing that your Shaykh does is ever without a reason. Although I first thought that maybe he has done this because he has realized that I've started enjoying gardening, so he just to help me with that, he gave me a small box of something that works in gardening. It's called Miracle Grow, and basically it's a compound that you put into the plants that allows the plants to grow in an expedient manner. So if you have indoor plants especially, if you put that powder into your plants, or you mix them in the water and you feed the plants with that, after in a very quick time rather, the plant starts to grow very quickly. But now I realize that there was another purpose behind it as well. And that purpose was to remind me that just as there's a miracle grow that helps the plants grow in an expedient manner, there's something that when we are trying to grow this bud of ours, when we have this 1 month to nurture that plant, which is to start giving us fruits in another, in the following month, there's also something that we can do as well. There's a miracle grow that we can use as well. And that miracle grow is what I'm going to talk to you about today. That now that we have come to the neutral state, now that we have this aspiration and this hope and this desire in us to come to gain these benefits of month of Ramadan, what is it that we can do? And that is inshallah going to be the shortcut. That is the shortcut to gaining the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the shortcut of drawing the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like no other. Like I said, that our job is to give water, bag after bag of it. It is up to Allah to ignite that fire into our hearts. Now, how do we get to draws Allah attention towards us that He actually does ignite that fire into our heart? Is by doing something which Allah Himself has said that if you do so, Allah's love, Allah's attention would become focused upon you. There's a very interesting ayah in Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, yuhibbuhum wa yuhibbunahu, which basically means that Allah says that Allah loves them and they love Allah. Which, if you think about it, the sequence of the love is that Allah first loves somebody and then that person starts loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we are to just just think about this ayah, then I think we would become very hopeless, because we would say that I can only love Allah if Allah first starts loving me. But there's a flip side to looking at it as well. The flip side to it, looking at it, is that we start to love Allah only because Allah loves us. The fact that we are here, any one of us who are listening to it live or in recording, we are getting this opportunity, is because we have this desire to love Allah. But we couldn't have had this desire to love Allah had there not been love from Allah to begin with, to start with. So Allah loves us, and that love of Allah allows us to love Him. And if we are to not take it like that, and if you are to say that first Allah has to love and then only we would be loving, then there are other places in Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that there are ways in which you can become a person whom Allah loves. You can become a person who Allah has offered His love to. Now, what are those ways? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, Ya Rasulullah, you say to people, you tell them that, Kul in kuntum tuhibbun Allah, that say to people that, O people, if you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fattabi'uni, then follow me, yuhibbukum Allah, then Allah would love you. Allah would love you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the simplest of manners, in the easiest of ways, explain a very, very complicated, very, very complex matter, which we keep on worrying about, which we keep on thinking that, how can I become a person that whom Allah loves? How can I gain the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it's very simple. It's not complicated at all. It's very easy. All you need to do is just make sure that you start following the beloved of Allah. Allah would start loving you. If we think about it, it happens in our daily lives as well. If one of our child is to go away, he is to go and study somewhere, and he moves out of the house because of some other work reasons or anything else. Now our heart longs for that child because he is away from us. But if there is a friend of our child who is very much alike in his appearance, in his gestures, in his manners, in his speech, in his conduct to our child, then we are automatically drawn to that. We are automatically drawn to that child or the friend who's like our child. Why so? Because his gestures, his ways of conducting himself, his speech, his work are all a reflection of our child, and they remind us of our child whom we love so much. So we are now loving towards this friend as well. It is the same thing. When we adapt the ways of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when we become people who are like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when we become people who imitate Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in whatever we do, it draws the attention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards us, and it makes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us. Dear brothers and sisters, with only 1 month left to Ramadan, we do not have time to nurture the plant, to give it water and then wait for it to grow slowly. We need a miracle grow. We need that compound to go into that plant of ours that will expedite its growth. And this expediting growth factor is the sunnah of Rasulullah, the kamil ittiba of Rasulullah, following Rasulullah in every single thing, in every single way, in every single action. The beauty of following the sunnah of Rasulullah is that it also increases our remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we are following Rasulullah inside out, outside in, then there is not a moment when we are ghafil of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I just want you to run with me from the time we go to sleep till we go to sleep next time, the next day, the different things that we do and the sunnahs that are involved in there. Let's start. We go to sleep by reciting a certain dua. Allahumma bismika amutu wa ahya. We go to sleep with the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We wake up and there is a masnoon dua. Alhamdulillahi allazi ahyana ba'da ma amatana wa ilayhin nushur. So we went to sleep remembering Allah. This was the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Of course, there's an action to it as well, that you sleep on your right side, you do the masnoon askar, you do this dua, you go to sleep. You wake up and you wake up with this dua, remembrance of Allah subhanahu. Majority of the people after waking up, first thing they do, they switch on their mobiles to check their messages. But since we have already given up on our mobiles, so we are skipping this part, right? We have people who are no longer spending time on social media, so this is not applicable to us anymore. So we are now among the ones who would go to bathroom, and I will go to our toilets now. So we'll not be picking up our mobiles, checking messages, checking our Facebook and Instagrams. We would be going to washroom. There's no masnoon dua for checking Facebook or Instagram. There is a masnoon dua which we can start by Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and then every time we are clicking on says La hawla wa la quwwata astaghfirullah rabbi min kulli dhanbin wa atubu ilayh. Yes, we can do all of that, but let's we have already given up on it, so there's nothing for us to worry about. So you go to the washroom. There's a sunnah way of entering the washroom, and there's a sunnah dua for entering the washroom. You're done with your washroom, there's a sunnah way of coming out of the washroom, and there's a sunnah dua for the washroom. If you have to make wudu, there's a sunnah dua for start of wudu, in the wudu, at the end of wudu. When you are now changing your clothes, there's a sunnah way of taking off your clothes, and there's a dua for that. There's a sunnah way of putting on the clothes, and there's a dua for that. Now you're putting on your shoes, there's a sunnah dua way of putting on your shoes. And if you took off your shoes earlier, there's a sunnah way of taking off your shoes. You get out of your house, there's a sunnah dua for getting out of the house. You enter your car, there's a sunnah dua for getting into your car. There's a sunnah dua for starting your journey. You reach the masjid, there's a sunnah dua for entering into the masjid. There's a sunnah dua for entering the masjid. You leave the masjid, there's a sunnah way of leaving the masjid. There's a sunnah way of sunnah dua for leaving the masjid. You come back to your house, there's a sunnah way of entering the house. There's a sunnah dua for entering the house. You come and you have your breakfast, there's a sunnah way of eating. There's a sunnah way dua for starting to eat. If you drink in between water, there's a way of drinking water. There's a way of dua for drinking water. If you have milk, there's a dua for having milk. There's a dua for there's a way of having milk. Now, these are the things that you would do not just once. You would eat multiple times, you would drink multiple times, you would go to washroom multiple times, you would enter the house, leave the masjid, enter the masjid, make wudu. These are things that you would put on your shoes, take off your shoes multiple times. In the single day, you would be doing all of that. If we do all of these things with the niyyah of following the sunnah, and as per the sunnah way, all of this, number one, becomes ibadat. So our putting on our shoes, our taking off our shoes, our entering into the toilet, our leaving the toilet, all of this becomes ibadat. Or we get reward for all of it. Imagine you get reward for going to bathroom. You get forgiven for going to the bathroom. Why? Because you're doing it as Allah's beloved did. They all become ibadat. Number two, it keeps your heart connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the biggest of it all is that it draws Allah's attention towards you, and you become one of those whom Allah loves. You become one of those whom Allah loves. So this is a miracle grow for us. This is the miracle grow for us. So now is the time that we start focusing on what sunnahs we need to follow. List them down. Identify what are the sunnahs that I know, what are the sunnahs that I don't know, what are the sunnahs that I can learn, and what are the sunnahs that I can start following. Start following the sunnahs one by one, so that you benefit from them, so that you benefit. Bringing sunnahs into our life is not just that we grow our beards, that we put on the caps, that we start wearing jubbas. These The sunnah is in four things. Sunnah is in four things, and we need to bring sunnahs in all four things, in all four aspects of our lives. Not just the zahir. Sunnah is in zahir, the appearance. Sunnah is in akhlaq, the manners. Sunnah is in maamulat, the dealings. And sunnah is in batin, the inner self. There are all four areas of our lives. We have to make sure that we are following the sunnah. The more we follow the sunnah, the more the mercy of Allah gets drawn towards us, the higher the chances that we would be saved and that we would have all the right elements in us to be among those who benefit, not just in Ramadan but outside of it. Sunnah is the key for success. Sunnah is the key for success. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Qul in kuntum tuhibbuna Allah fattabi'uni yuhibbukumullah." Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah will forgive your sins. يغفر لكم ذنوبكم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive your sins. Inna Allah ghafurur rahim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is extremely forgiving. Extremely forgiving. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in another place had said that لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. That for you indeed there is a role model in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the form of, in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is a role model for you. For whom? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifies this as well. Liman. For whom? For the one كَانَ يَرْجُ اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَةِ. That the one who has this hope of coming to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the last day of judgment, وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا, and the one who remembers Allah profusely. In Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the role model for the one who remembers Allah profusely and who wants to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and has an understanding that there is a Yawm al-Akhirah. And I've already explained to you that how by virtue of us being in the following the sunnah, we are always in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's not just follow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in keeping the beards and wearing the jubbas and topis and all of that, but also make sure that our manners are also like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That when we speak to people, we speak to them with a smile. When we deal with people, we deal with them honestly. When we are dealing with children, we are loving towards them. When we are with our spouse, we are caring towards them. We are loving towards them. We are respectful towards them. Let's make sure that all of this is taking place. Let's make sure that we are upright. We are honest. We are sadiq, we are ameen, we uphold our promises, we honor our word, we honor when somebody trusts us with something, we honor that. All of these are the personality traits of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We need to have these personality traits as well. If we just do the Zahiri Sunnah, but our language is hard and we swear at people, we shout at people, then we are doing a disservice to the Sunnah of Rasul. We cannot do disservice to the Sunnah of Rasul. We need to draw the people from our appearance through our conduct. And then we have to have an inner state where we are like the batin of Rasulullah, immense in the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, always aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, never ghafil of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's bring the sunnah of Rasulullah into our lives. The more the sunnah of Rasulullah comes into our life, the higher the chances of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loving us, approving us. I'd say one last thing, that we are always mentally conscious that we need to have things which are authentic. We buy anything in our lives, in our day-to-day life, we want to get a certificate of authenticity with it, because we know that if there's a certificate of authenticity with it, then there's a hope that this thing would be genuine, and there would be nobody tricking us or cheating us. When we do things as per sunnah, we basically, our actions get stamped that this was done in an authentic manner, approved manner. It is like we have obtained ISO certification to say that this person does things, this is a certification that this person does things as per the approved standard. Our actions are rewarded automatically if they have the stamp of Sunnah on them. There would be no questioning, or there will be no evaluation of the actions which are exactly as per Sunnah, done with the niyyah of following the Sunnah. If inshallah we follow the Sunnah and we have managed to get the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards us, then we are very hopeful that we have put that miracle garden, miracle grow into our pot, and now the plant would flourish, would come out in an expedient manner. Please learn the Sunnahs, and if you know the Sunnahs, become mentally conscious of following and implementing these in everything. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to follow these simple things, but simple yet very, very effective things that can make us come very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.